Now tell me that is not good for business.
So, with the pit stop heard around the world still ringing in our ears, I wanted to focus this great TV episode on Bernie Ecclestone. Surprise, surprise, and him talking about Nico Rosberg and Sebastian Vettel being potentially bad for business. But what does that really mean? Are these drivers really marketable or not? Does it apply to other people? And more importantly, is Bernie talking a load of bollocks again? This and much more on this episode of Dre TV.
Welcome to you all at home.
You've still got a chance to win this race, haven't you?
Just drive. I wanna be the only one to make you
I wasn't even going to make this video today, but the prospect of watching Tipping Points on ITV with my mum was all the incentive I needed to talk about this one. So, let's break this down here. During the highly, well, I would say exciting, but completely terrible Monaco Grand Prix weekend, there was an interview that went up on the F1 website with Bernie Ecclestone and Nico Rosberg. And it was a very intriguing interview that had a lot of quotable things to say from it. Mostly regarding Bernie Ecclestone and the business side of Formula 1 and the marketability of its drivers. In this interview, he said, and I quote, and this is quite an interesting one here, so I'm going to read this out. So yeah, and I quote, "As the cancellation of the German Grand Prix indicates, Germany is a terrible market for Formula 1, said Ecclestone. On the contrary, Lewis Hamilton is a hero in the UK. The British love Formula 1. Sebastian is also not doing much for F1. People hardly recognise him on the street. Ecclestone picked out current world champion Hamilton, who is often seen at A-list parties as a good promoter of F1, which he says has in turn boosted its profile in the UK and across the world. I still believe that Lewis is the best champion that we've had in a long, long time," said Ecclestone. He manages to get all different walks of life: red carpet, fashion business, and music. You name it. That isn't your fault, Nico, or his. You two are just very different characters. When it comes to F1, I am a huge Lewis fan because he is a super promoter of the sport. From a pure business aspect, sorry Nico, if I have to say this, you are not so good for my business." Rosberg responded, "Wait a minute, that is a hard call. Bernie is the commercial rights holder, so the more outgoing the champion is, the better, of course. I also do think about our sport and want to make an effort, but in my own way. I am Nico and not Lewis." Ecclestone added, "It sounds harder than it is meant. Unfortunately, you don't have the German fans on your side." F1's boss went on to suggest that the championship needs more figureheads. "True, I would rather race than strut red carpets in Hollywood, and thank God that is not my job, but also the team principal should be more prominent," he added. "Take away Toto Wolff's Mercedes shirt and send him down the street. Nobody would recognise him." A very intriguing interview. You can catch the whole thing on the Formula 1 website, but he basically implied that Sebastian Vettel and Nico Rosberg aren't great for business. Is he right to make these statements? Well, there's a lot of ways to look at it, in my humble opinion. First of all, he talks about the German Grand Prix, and is Germany a terrible market for Formula 1? I'd say yes and no to that. Germany has dominated Formula 1 since the turn of the century, and that's because of Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel. They've won, I think, 9 out of the 15 championships since the turn of the century. And obviously, that's awesome for them. And, the German Grand Prix is no longer on the calendar for now. It's coming back next year. So Germany is sticking to their 2-year plan of every other year we get a German Grand Prix by the looks of it. Now the Nürburgring can't afford it. I think the reason why there was such a bad attendance in Germany, because last year's German Grand Prix had 45,000 fans show up for a 110,000 seat facility at Hockenheim. So the arena was less than half full, which was a shocker to the German field, because there was 4 Germans in Formula 1 last year: Vettel, Suttel, Hülkenberg and Rosberg. So we had 5 Germans in the field. 4 Germans, not to mention the championship leader at the time was Nico Rosberg, a German who was driving a Anglo-German team, and there was only a half fill. Now, you could easily say that's down to Nico Rosberg not being the best character in the world, but I think I'd put that much more down to the fact that the German GP's tickets are way too friggin' expensive. The price for German GP tickets last year was more expensive than tickets to the Champions League final. So, you can't expect the average fan to cough up over £400 just for the race. That's a very, very expensive ticket. You could take your family on holiday for a weekend for 400 quid. I mean, it just doesn't represent good value. So for me, as much as it's easy to condemn the German Grand Prix for being a terrible market, I put it more down to the fact that because Germany can't afford to host a Grand Prix, really, it has to jack up the ticket prices to break even. So pinning that on Nico Rosberg isn't really a great sign. The German Grand Prix was fine when the tickets were cheaper, and the Nürburgring was sold out for 2013 when Sebastian Vettel won his first German Grand Prix. So I don't entirely buy that Rosberg's the reason why there's no F1 market in Germany. Then he makes the comparison to Lewis Hamilton. Now, as Nico Rosberg quite eloquently points out, Nico and Lewis are two very different personalities. Lewis Hamilton is a very marketable guy. I am not denying this for an absolute second. He is a marketer's and a promoter's wet dream. He loves the glitz and glamour side of Formula One. He spends big money. He loves his private planes. He lives that celebrity lifestyle that we've become so accustomed to in modern society for the last 25 years, since the days of Pamela Anderson going around being a part of Baywatch. Hamilton is clearly all about that life. He loves his suits, he loves his jewelry, he loves his bling, he loves his private plane, he likes fancy cars. He ticks every major stereotype on that celebrity box. And of course, like I said, that's great for promotion because that means he's able to capture fans from different demographics you wouldn't normally expect F1 to be associated with. Like you said, with fashion. Even if he dresses like Gok Wang's adopted child or some offspring of his of some kind, or to a lesser degree, stuff like music because he's associated with people like Pharrell Williams and Kanye West, etc., etc. So, as Bernie says, he's got every right to endorse a guy like Lewis Hamilton because, yes, he does tap into markets that other drivers normally wouldn't tap into. And Nico Rosberg's right. He's absolutely right to say from a business aspect, obviously a more marketable champion would be brilliant. If you hold the commercial rights to Formula One like Bernie Ecclestone does, and you're world champion, the guy, obviously your lead figurehead for the sport isn't that incredible a character and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, sure, you've got a right to mention it and say, well, yeah, he's not great for business, but that's not Nico Rosberg or Sebastian Vettel's problem. Sebastian Vettel is one of only two drivers in the current field that isn't on Twitter, Kimi Räikkönen being the other one. For one, and that's interesting. And Sebastian Vettel has often made it quite clear he's not about that celebrity life. He's always got along with Lewis Hamilton and has had a lot of respect for him as a driver and as a person. They get along very well, but they're from two completely different backgrounds. Vettel's a farm guy. He grew up in the country. He's kept his private life very private. It took a huge leak to reveal that his girlfriend was pregnant with his child. And whenever he sees paparazzi when he's out relaxing somewhere, he often goes away. He doesn't like to be in front of the paparazzi. He tends to lead a very private life. That's just how Sebastian Vettel is. Similarly with Nico Rosberg, he's not really about that high life. He's not really about the celebrity lifestyle and whatnot. He's a business guy. He likes to party, he likes to play, but he doesn't like to be in front of the public eye. I mean, his wife's a business owner in his own right. They like to make money, and that's what they've been good at for a long time. Now, is it Sebastian Vettel's job to try and promote the sport? Not really. Sebastian Vettel's just being himself. Same with Nico Rosberg. You're not obligated to promote the sport in your free time. You're there to do a job. You're hired by your team to go out and drive the car to the best of your ability. Sure, you might have an obligation to the media, but you don't have an obligation to promote the sport outside of your job. In your own free time, what you do in your personal life is up to you, not up to what Bernie Ecclestone says. So, it's not an obligation for guys like Rosberg and Vettel to go out clubbing or go out to a fancy red carpet event or do some promotion work outside of just being a driver for Ferrari or for Mercedes. That's not down to you, Bernie. That's down to what's in other people's contracts and what they're obligated to do. So, for me, I don't feel like it's a driver's responsibility to do that. The driver's responsibility is to, you know, drive the fucking car, believe it or not. I know it's such a foreign concept these days. So, like I said, Lewis is totally a guy for that. Like I said, he's a marketer's wet dream. He's the perfect guy to spearhead the sport, because he's all about that life. Just because Sebastian Vettel, who won 4 championships, wasn't the most incredible character or outgoing figure or controversial guy the sport's ever seen, doesn't mean he should be criticised for not enhancing the business. As a commercial rights holder, the guy that's always on TV and the guy that always wants to talk to the media and get his name out there for his own agenda, Bernie, isn't it your job as a race promoter to try and enhance the talent? F1 should be making stars, not the other way around, quite frankly. And like I said before, F1 fans are masochists. They're always going to watch. They don't really care about outside interference. Yeah, you may want the extra casual viewer here and again, but guys like Rosberg and Vettel aren't going to do that, and nor should they. Bernie Ecclestone owns the commercial rights. That really should be his job, to try and promote the talent and try to promote the sport and make the sport look as good as possible, rather than its drivers. The drivers aren't obligated to do that, in my opinion. So for me, I feel like it's a bad... I feel like Bernie's making excuses and expecting the drivers to do the hard work for him so he doesn't have to. I use an example of a guy like Barry Hearn, who has done an amazing job in the last 5 to 10 years of increasing the popularity of darts and snooker. 2 sports that still may not get taken completely seriously by the mainstream public, but has managed to get more money put into them. Snooker is growing worldwide as a sport again. They're making a push for the 2020 Olympics. And darts is getting more and more popular again by making big events with lots of money and encouraging more people to take part. That's what a promoter does. Sports is soap opera for men. And that's what Bernie has to figure out. The drivers aren't going to do that, because there really aren't enough characters in Formula 1. And while that's a little bit annoying, I'm perfectly fine with that, because I'd rather have a guy go out of his way to be himself and endorse a private life and do what he wants to do, than a guy like a Chael Sonnen or a Conor McGregor, who basically acts fake to sell fights, or in this case to sell races. People are going to watch anyway, so don't be fake. People can recognise when you're being fake. So for me, I feel like what's best for business is that Bernie gets off his arse and promotes the sport as much as he can without using his drivers to flip the bill for them, because they're not obligated to do that. They're obligated to drive the frigging car as fast as possible. So that's my take on the whole situation, and why Bernie, I think, needs to pull his finger out a little bit more when it comes to promoting rather than letting the drivers do it for him. I'd love to hear what you guys say, as always, so please tell me in the comments what you think. And let me know what you guys think on this matter. Is it a promotion thing? Is Rosberg and Vettel really great for business? And yeah, apologies for breaking out the webcam and not realising my blinds back there don't really work. So there's not much I can really do. So you might get a little bit of shine coming off them. I'm doing my best to try and block it out by using my enormous body. But yeah, if you haven't got a subject you want me to talk about in more Drake TV episodes, please let me know. I'd love to hear your views as always. And I hope you guys enjoyed the slightly extended edited version of this show. I'm trying to make it look a little bit smaller, like an episode of the Jimquisition. If anyone's ever watched that show by Jim Sterling, I'm taking a little bit of a trick from him and basically going back to my Series 1 roots a little bit with this one, only just shorter. But let me know what you guys thought of the new format as well. I'd love to hear what you guys think as always. And until next time, I've been Harrison. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.